All right, guys, welcome to our weekly Zoom call, Driving Lives community Zoom call. Anywho, I just got back in town from LA, so we're going to chat a little bit about that today. We're going to talk about, what I personally did, setting myself up for success diet-wise going into this trip. What did I do during the trip, and what am I doing now that I'm back out of this trip? Obviously, end of springtime right now, headed into summertime. Lots of people on long vacations, short vacations, beach trips, different just festivities, 4th of July. We just have Memorial Day weekend, all that good stuff. So different ways to kind of tread water throughout those different times. There's, ways to enjoy it, ways to moderate it, all that good stuff. So we'll kind of talk about, my thoughts kind of going into it. But really outside of that though, I think let's just get rocking and rolling. But before I dive into it, Dexter, Krista, Soli, Brad, my friends that are on here right now, you guys have anything sticking out to you that's more pertinent, more urgent matters you guys want to talk about real quick? If not, I'll dive in. All right. Something I my last day of teaching was on Thursday. And so something that I've done for the past 7 years is I always write down in my notes like different things I want to do for TLF, different improvements I want to make, different changes I want to make, and then ultimately whatever I can get done during my thanks, Brad. Whatever I can get done during my summer breaks, which I've always taught summer school as well. So I give myself like 6 weeks to make business changes. And then I have 2 or 3 weeks for winter break and then 1 week for spring break. So really, in terms of business changes, extra things I've done has mainly come during those couple little windows. So I'm I feel like I've done don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I think I've done a pretty damn good job the past 7 or so years of making adjustments and always providing a good amount of great service. And I'm excited that if I could do that with a full-time job during all that amount of time and managing all that I was managing, I'm just excited to see what I can do and how much more I can pour into you guys as my clients and as my community. So thanks for being a part of it when I was at what I like to think would be my worst, and you're here for what's going to be the best to come for TLF. So I'm very, very looking forward to that. But anyway, so let's go to dive on into it. So a little backstory on this trip. It was with one of my best friends. We went out to LA. He has his grandparents have a house out in Linwood, which is a suburb of LA. It's over by Inglewood, kind of near I think it's near Compton as well. But anyway, good spot to go to. His grandparents don't live there, but his uncles do, and so we had access to a car, access to a house, so that was super nice. My buddy had also left his full-time job, his 9 to 5, last fall, and started his own company, which so we both kind of said, with me leaving teaching, with him having left then, is that this is going to be kind of a retirement trip for us. So we set some goals. We both hit our goals, and we said, all right, let's plan this trip. So leading into this, and I'll scoot back a little bit because the way I look at my own diet and the way I like to visualize all of your guys' diets and the approaches we're going to take are much a long-term approach. I'm not just looking at what do we want to do the next 8 weeks. I want to know, first off, what have we been doing the past 6 months or the past year, or for some people, the past couple decades, depending on what their lifestyles always look like. And then we move forward. So we see this from a much bigger scope, and then we narrow into our daily action. So kind of what I'm doing here is that the scope of what I've done. Obviously, if you were here in the fall, which all 4 of you guys were, I had a competition. So I did a 7 or 8 week cut for a competition. Did decent, could have done better, but regardless, got really lean for it though. Looked great. One of my best looks to date. And so that was in like September. So then I reverse dieted. So I was on stage around like 157, 158, I believe. Having cut down from like 170, 175. And so I reversed that. I gradually added food back in. I think the lowest my calories ever got, by my peak week, with the show day week, was maybe like 2,000 calories. We'll just say that number as an easy number to toss out there. And then I gradually reverse dieted. I maintained that weight because I went to Vegas for the Olympia as part of what I did with Underestimated, the apparel company that I work with. And so I wanted to stay lean going into that. So I reverse dieted. I maintained my weight around the 160 to 164 mark for about 4 or 5 months there post competition. And then once New Year hit, and I got back from Vegas and all that good stuff. I said, okay, I'm going to start doing this lean bulk. So I went from about 165 to about 175. I've been doing this in a very gradual manner of this bulk. So I've added a little bit of body fat, which is normal and it's supposed to happen. And honestly, it's the best thing for my hormones, for my thyroid, for my metabolism, to allow my body to gain a little bit of fat back as I've gotten my calories up. So like I said, if I was at 2,000 calories back in September for the show, I probably got up to, I don't know, about 33,000 and maybe like 3,300 calories before the new year hit. Now, since New Year, I've maintained, I've generally have about 5 low days and 2 high days. My low days are around 3,500 calories, and now they're about 400 grams of carbs. My high days are around 500 grams of carbs, and they're closer to about 4,000 calories. So that's what I did leading into this trip. Now, that wasn't for this trip, but that's just kind of a little bit of a backstory with it. Now, here's one of the perks with it. And I actually saw another coach kind of talk about this on social media the other day, and it's what I always kind of preach. I like to think of our body in terms like finances. Everybody understands money to an extent, so it's always a good kind of analogy with it. And reverse dieting is like me building up my bank account so that I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. Reverse dieting is building up your bank account or your metabolic capacity to intake more calories without you gaining body fat. So that is the perk of a reverse diet. We've done many different Zoom talks on it. I've had individual conversations with all of you guys on here, along with a lot of other clients on here. And so essentially, comparing it to if you've got a small bank account, I have a big bank account, the things we can do are different. If we look at that in terms of food, if you are used to 1,500 calories and I'm used to 4,000 calories, I can take a much bigger damaging weekend without it being a negative effect for me. So versus if you're at 1,500 calories and you go have the kind of weekend I just had, you would probably come back 10 pounds heavier. But because my metabolism is used to all of that surplus of food, because my metabolism is used to it, I don't take that big of a hit. Now, some of that is genetics, and I am very thankful for my genetics with it. But again, a lot of that is because of the careful work I put into my metabolism, what goes in my body, and overall my consistency throughout the entire year, controlling all the days that I can control. And when you look at it, it's as a full year, even if you just eliminate Sundays, because Sundays are usually my more relaxed day where things are a little bit more off than usual, I'm still at 300 and some days of the year that I can control. And that allows me to go do a trip like I just did. So ultimately, we actually ate less food out than I normally would. I probably had less calories than I normally would on a daily basis. So I actually came back after eating lots of shit, not saying no to anything I wanted. I ate what I wanted to, I drank what I wanted to, and I came back 2.5 pounds lighter, actually. I weighed 172 today, and I left around 174, 175. So that's kind of what nutrition looked like. So when I went there, because of the metabolic capacity I've given myself through reverse dieting, I was able to go there and not have to restrict myself, and could kind of eat whatever I really wanted to eat. I didn't drink a whole lot because I don't like drinking a whole lot, but I will say Saturday night I had a crazy amount of tequila, which I usually want to brag about. It was and for me it's an ungodly amount, and I spent the entire Sunday in bed until 5 p.m. So I wasted a whole day vacation because of it, but I also drink like that once, maybe twice a year. So it was well worth it for me to do that. But essentially, though, it's nice to be able to go on vacation for me. And the reason why I was able to go and have that fun is because of what I did leading up to it, because my consistency leading up to that. Now, if I had been cutting into that and I was at 2,000 calories or 2,500 calories, then that hit would have been a little bit worse on me. My not just females, but I have a lot of females that come to me and they are used to eating 1,200 calories a day and feel like that's all they can eat. And if they eat any more, they're going to gain weight. Well, guess what? 1,200 calories on vacation is like one meal. And majority of people are going to have at least 2 meals a day. And a lot of people, alcohol is part of what they do on vacation. So you're easily going to surpass your normal capacity in terms of calories, and you're going to gain weight pretty quick with that. Even if you didn't go on vacation, you have Memorial Day. Some people really, really indulged on the entire weekend. Some people just indulge on one day. So the most important thing for me at this point, even though I didn't gain a lot of weight back, if anything, I underate on protein and just overall calories. So my biggest fear when I'm trying to gain size and gain weight, good weight, of course, is when you're under eating, you're working against what your goals are. So my biggest thing right now is to get back on track as fast as possible and get my metabolism or my body back used to eating that 4,000 or so calories a day, which is in its own right for some people, at least for myself, is sometimes even more difficult than it is to cut and restrict calories. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Usually I would have gotten 100% back on track today. I had a networking group that I went to for the first time this morning, though. And then I had like 6 or 7 calls just back to back this afternoon. So I have actually under 8 today, and that's honestly never really like me. I've had a protein shake this morning, and I had 6 eggs and 4 pieces of toast for lunch, and that's all I've ate, and it's 7 o'clock. So I got to go smash some food after this. I'm not going to hit anywhere near my calories, but I did pressure cook my chicken today. I actually had some frozen chicken as well that I thawed out. I made my rice today as well. And tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to swing by Sam's Club and grab whatever else I need to get ready to rock and roll with this stuff. But really the biggest key with this, is get back on track as fast as you can. I think the majority of people here in TLF, we are actively cutting. So when you go on a trip like this, you might come back a couple pounds up. You might come back 10 pounds up. You might come back 2 pounds less than you were when you left. But regardless, whatever you were, the most important thing you could do is lock back in. And, I was gone for 5 or 6 days, the last thing I want to do is let that snowball for another 4 or 5 days, especially if we're trying to cut. We definitely don't want to let that snowball because, 5 days turning into 10 days of fuckery and eating whatever you want and doing whatever you want. It's going to be very, very detrimental, especially if we've been in a deficit for a while and things of that nature. But even if you did let that snowball for another week, the most important thing is that you sure shit don't let it roll into the very next week. And is to get back on track as soon as humanly possible for yourself. And that's really one of the hardest things for a lot of people to do, or people want to overcorrect. You come back from vacation, you come back from a Memorial Day, or maybe just a shitty Sunday. And then you think, well, even though I'm not supposed to be doing much more than 20 or 30 minutes of cardio a day, I'm going to go kill it for an hour. I'm going to go do 2 workouts a day. I'm going to completely eliminate all carbs and fats from my diet, or just completely miss out on meals because I'm trying to overcorrect for whatever I did. We don't want to overcorrect. That's a horrible cycle to get into. It's not a healthy mindset at all either. It's not balance, it's not moderation. You're just going from one extreme to the next. And extremes are why we gain so much weight. Extremes are why, we whatever we're doing is not sustainable. I said a buddy, I'm not going to mention who he is. He's actually a client of Thrive Lives. He's fallen off, and his work has kept him really busy, and he has not been prioritizing his workouts. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if he just saw a picture of himself or what it was, but he didn't like how he was looking, didn't like how he was feeling. So he went to the gym after not having worked out for months, went to the gym every single day for the past 2 weeks, and immediately gave himself tendonitis in a forearm because he just was overtraining. His body wasn't used to working out that much. So he went from 0 to 100. Now, this is something that we've worked through together before. But just like with everybody, we all have different tendencies that we'll fall back into sometimes. And his intentions were in the right place. He didn't like the way he looked or felt and wanted to go do something about it. Instead of taking a slower, more consistent approach, he just went balls to the wall, went 0 to 100 and injured himself because of that. And now he's going to be out for at least a couple of weeks before he can really pick up a weight with his upper body without causing that tendonitis to really flare up and linger for a lot longer. So that's just why we don't want to overcorrect. We don't want to go from one extreme to the next. We want to keep a good, healthy baseline. This is one of the things I've been trying to preach a lot. I don't know necessarily on these calls, but within our check-ins is people, we need to raise our baseline of what our normal days look like. Before TLF, if your normal day was 20 or 30 ounces of water, you ate 2 meals a day, both of which were shitty, and you got 3,000 steps a day in, and you didn't work out. That used to be your normal baseline. But now, even after only being with me for 3 or 4 weeks, if your new baseline is 60 ounces of water, at least 1 or 2 healthy meals a day, and now you're getting 5,000 steps a day, and that's your new that's your new average baseline, you've now just leveled up. Because now your worst days are that right there. And so that's really what we want to do with this stuff. So my buddy that I'm talking about within TLF, again, I won't drop any names. We don't go 0 to 100 because what's going to happen is you're going to burn out, because now you're thinking, fuck, I got to get to the gym 6-7 days a week, which you don't have to. I'd much rather just see you go twice a week for an entire year versus go really intense for 2 weeks, be injured, and then get busy again with work and fall off for 2 months, and then go really, really hard again for 2 weeks. That's the same thing as crash dieting, the same thing as doing fucking Whole30 for 30 days because you really want to dial it in, and then going way back to everything you used to do once that 30 days is up. We don't want to have a short-term mentality with this stuff. And that's why, when I started this talk about what I did metabolism-wise and calorie-wise for the past 8 months, is because everything I did leading up to this trip has resulted in me not gaining 10 pounds on a week long in LA. The foodie paradise, it's what's allowing me to get right back on track and get right back to where my goals were when I left off. So stop the severe extreme swings is one of the big take homes today. But anyway, I just yammered for a little bit. Anybody have any questions? Anything we want to address? I did hit record, right? Yeah. So
for me, I got a small trip coming up, so it's just more or less like I'm actually planning it out. Like I'm taking a lot of the stuff that this isn't the first time you've covered a similar topic to this, so I'm very curious to see how this goes for me, because like I'm planning on going a little bit relaxed on like Saturday and stuff like that. There's a burger joint up in Des Moines that I was told that I needed to try, so I was going to try to check that out. But most of the time, it's like I'm thinking ahead. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get these protein powders in with me. I'm going to be back on Sunday. I'm not going to worry about working out. I'm going to worry about getting my food for the week, and stuff like that. I was just kind of curious what, I mean, did you make like multiple protein powders for one day, or did you just do like just a protein powder for a day and then like just kind of watch what you ate throughout the week and throughout the trip while you were there and stuff like that?
So actually, and I usually do preach, taking protein powder with you. In your situation, you're going to be driving. So I would definitely if I was driving, I would definitely take protein powder with me. I'd be even more prepared than what I was there. I guess I didn't really cover kind of what you just talked about. You're in one of those situations where you are actively cutting. We are actively trying to lose weight, and we don't want to dig ourselves a hole that's really hard to climb back out of post trip. So there's two ways to look at it. If you're okay with that scale going back up a little bit, and solely, I know that you don't go on a lot of vacations. You just went on one to Vegas not too long ago, which was awesome for you. But if we all work our asses off in this group, and when you're taking vacation, we don't want to be super stressed over diet and things like that. But when it comes down to, you got to reflect on, what are my biggest goals, what are my biggest priorities, what's going to make me the happiest. If that is staying pretty damn clean while you're on a trip so you can come back and conquer your goals on the timeline that you want to do it on, then do that. If your goal is that, fuck, I haven't been on vacation and just relaxed and not been focused on something for so long, then go and enjoy yourself. Same thing with holidays. Enjoy those times. But it just comes down to, you got to be really, really real with yourself and think about what is your actual goal with it. Now in your case, Soli, it sounds like you're going to go have a tasty burger. You want to bring some protein powder. Fantastic. I would definitely do that. I think you mentioned like a shaker bottle or something like that. I personally have like 40 shaker bottles. That's from working in gyms all my life. And anytime that somebody left a shaker bottle for longer than a week or two, unless it was like a rotten protein powder that was in there, if it was just like water in there, if you left that shit in the gym for longer than a week or two, I'm taking it, especially if I liked it. Good thing I don't work for any gyms like that anymore. But anyway, so I've got a lot of shaker bottles. Point being is that I would take, 5 or 6 of those with me, not even filled with powder. I'd probably just be my whole bag of powder or jug of powder, and then make those as needed. I would utilize those for protein shakes in the morning. Breakfast is one of the easiest things for me to skip while on vacation. For some people, that's their favorite thing. So whichever meal you care less about, have a protein shake in place of that one meal. It's an easy way to save money while on vacation as well. And then I'd also probably do a protein shake before I went to bed. Now, again, like in my current situation, when I went to this trip, I just said, fuck it. Because again, I'm so consistent with it. And I didn't really want to stress over the food. I'm very, very meticulous while I'm home. And I just said, I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to lose all my progress in a week. I'm not going to lose a ton of muscle in a week. I might have lost a touch, but I was still eating a fair amount of calories with it. When I could pick, whenever we ordered food and stuff, I got a shit ton of protein during those meals. Um, but like I said, solely like in your situation or anybody who is actively cutting, you do want to be a little bit more mindful of things. You don't want to go super overboard. You want to be smart about what you're ordering as well. Like maybe not get the heaviest, most dense, calorie rich food possible. Enjoy your burger, but then have a protein shake later on that night, have one that morning, and you're good to go. So I don't know if that answered your question. Hopefully it did. I know I just kind of rambled on you.
No, that's pretty much exactly what I was kind of thinking about. It's like for breakfast, I mean, we just got an Airbnb. It's just going to be up in Des Moines. It's going to be 2 nights, nothing really
That's not,
major. Friday being one of the nights, and then so I was just pretty much planning, what's those pancakes called? But they have oatmeal versions of those.
oh,
The
cool.
core,
I gotcha. I think I know what you're
yeah.
talking.
Get one of those for the breakfast. I was thinking because it's going to be a convention, so I really don't want to pay $18 for a hot dog or nothing.
Yeah.
So let's bring a protein powder for lunch, and then dinner be a regular fork and knife for that one Saturday.
No, that's a perfect approach to do, man. I like that a
Cool.
lot. And even with you being, lower calories right now, actively cutting, given what you just said, you'll probably come in either just shy of what your current calorie count is or right around it. If you're somebody who really does want to be meticulous, maybe not just you, just talking in general right now, if you do
Mhm.
want to be somewhat on point, but also be a little bit loose, and easy thing to do when you're traveling, if you do want to track what you're eating to an extent, instead of worrying about the macros and the balancing the carbs and the fats within what your allotment is supposed to be, just try to focus on calories. Um,
Okay.
so if you just focus on calories, and if you want to take it one step further, try to get in a minimum amount of protein. So, like for you solely, like 180 grams of protein would be perfect. And then whatever your current calorie count is, if you can get around that, fantastic. But again, in your situation, it's only a couple days. I like your plan for breakfast. I like your plan for lunch as well. And that gives you, by really being intentional about those two meals, it gives you freedom to just kind of enjoy yourself for dinner. It's when you're eating out multiple times a day and things like that where it just becomes a little bit more tricky. And if you are eating out multiple times a day and you are actively cutting or wanting to at least maintain while you're on that trip, I don't think anybody should look to make a lot of progress during a vacation or during a trip or during a holiday or things like that. But at best, we just want to at least tread water or stay close to that baseline as possible. Uh,
Yeah.
so, like in your situation, solely, if you were going out to eat 3 times a day, let's just say, again, if you can replace, breakfast with a protein shake, fantastic. If not, then we still want to pick healthier choices. One
Right.
one thing we should always do, even when we're not on vacation like that, is get sauces on the side. Like if you're gonna get a salad, because they're a little bit more mindful, obviously, get the sauce on the side because a lot of the time, whatever that sauce is they're gonna put on it, they're gonna put a lot on it because it tastes better that way. And number two, that same sauce is going to be higher calorie, whether it's higher carbs and sugars or higher fat or whatever the case is. So we get that on the side so we can, use a little bit more conservatively versus liberally with that. Pick. I always say, the best thing to do is try to pick at least one, if not two, of your 3 meals to be focused on the nutrients. Focus on protein. Focus on, instead of getting potatoes, get veggies or get fruit even. Instead of getting, if you're going to get an omelet, maybe because you already know they're going to put some butter on it. And if you don't want to be extra and say, hey, no butter on that or no oil, which I don't even do either, then maybe get an egg white omelet instead of a regular omelet. A lot of times we're on vacation, as much food is a component of that, of course, but just being in a new place, doing different activities, the experiences that you're doing are what's more valuable than just saying, fuck it, I'm going to eat whatever sounds good. And sometimes it is just the food side of it, but you just got to go into it with the right expectations, in terms of what do you really want to get out of this trip and what are you okay with dealing with whenever you get back home, I guess is kind of what the way you should look at this, because you shouldn't really be upset. Like if you enjoyed the shit out of yourself and you said, I don't really care what I weigh when I come back, then yeah, go enjoy yourself. But again, if that's leading to 2 extra months of having a cut because of it, which it shouldn't, but it might, depending on your ability to get back on track right afterwards. But so, like I said, doing 1 or 2 meals based on the nutrients and based on the value and the feel that it's giving you, and then 1 meal for enjoyment. It's a good balance to do. 60% good for you, 40%, and just for the pure vacation enjoyment factor. Same thing with like Memorial Day as well. If we'll just look at that holiday, but I mean, you can look at any other holiday as well. Ones that you're spending time with family or friends is, if you're going to be having a cookout for lunch or a big heavy dinner for whatever the occasion is, control the other meals leading up to that. Usually those meals are going to be taking place midday or later on in the day. So wake up and start your day with just lean protein, or maybe even fast until those times. I'm a bigger component of eating protein kind of throughout the day because it's going to be more satiating. Before you go to the event, maybe have a protein shake, or maybe you just eat, a bunch of chicken or whatever the case is, so you can get in this more satiating food that's giving you your protein requirements for the day, and it's going to keep you more full. So when you go to this event, if you're loaded up on protein ahead of time, or protein and veggies, then you're less likely to go overindulge at whatever the event is that you're going to be doing. So again, there's so many different ways to skin a cat with this, if you will. And I think it's important that you guys all try any different things I've mentioned, and even anything that you might come up with yourself. But it's this whole thing about lifestyles is trial and error, and we're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to make progress with it. And like I said, no matter what, even if you go in with the best intentions, the best plan, solely if you go in there with your protein shakes and your oatmeal and whatnot, and you give in to other choices, what's most important is giving yourself grace for it afterwards, not being caught up on it, and just get back to work once you have the ability to, on Sunday or Monday. Like you said, you might be skipping the gym on Sunday. Fantastic. You're skipping that so you can go meal prep and get grocery shopped, which is what I would highly recommend you do as well. So definitely not a bad thing. Anybody else? Questions, thoughts, struggles, issues, questions pertaining to something else besides what I'm talking about? All right, y'all. Well, no need to force anything else out of you guys. I appreciate you guys all being here. That's all I had for you today. If any one of you had not heard back from me, I had quite a bit of check-ins. I think I had more check-ins when I was going out of town than I do on a week where I'm in town. So that was kind of funny. But so I try to get back to as many people as I could. If any one of you have not heard back from me yet, I apologize. If you're listening to this on Monday, you will have heard from me by then, next week. Also yesterday, I realized since we didn't have a Zoom call last week, I forgot to upload the podcast for last week. I had pre-recordings from all the Zoom calls we were doing prior to me actually making it into Thrive Live's podcast. So I did release an episode, I think, yesterday or today. I can't remember. It's all spatially, it's all coming together. Anyway, though, so there is a new episode out. I think it was actually the same topic that I just chose to talk about. So we're going to have back-to-back episodes talking about the same shit, but I'm a little bit older than the last time I did it. So maybe I had different insights to share with you on that one. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you all being here. Check in tomorrow. I think that's all I got for you guys. Have a great Wednesday evening.